Q97.9, Portland's #1 hit music station. I'm Ryan Gavin, and in the hot seat today is our Instagrammin', Harley-riding U.S. Senator, Senator Angus King. How is this new Harley?
I did a calculation the other night. This is my 7th motorcycle in 50 years.
No way.
Yeah. It started.
So it's been a while.
Started with a moped, a 1951 BMW German Army surplus,
Yep.
a Ducati, and 4 Harleys.
Wow.
Not all at once, one at a time.
So, like, do you go on day trips? Have you ridden it down to D.C. yet? Are you going to?
Oh no, I'm not. I don't think I'm going to. Riding.
That's a long ride.
A New Jersey Turnpike on a bike wouldn't be all that much fun. No, it's for riding in Maine in the summer and fall.
So you were the governor of Maine. I'm sure a lot of people know that. Back in the 1990s, you signed MLTI into law way back when, right?
Yep.
And that created the laptops and the iPads and things like that here in Maine schools. Is that something that you count to be like one of your coolest things that you've done?
Absolutely, because at the time it was crazy. I mean, people said, "What is this guy thinking?" And
right.
why doesn't he give our kids a chainsaw? And all of this stuff. I mean, it was a huge struggle. In fact, one legislator told me, he said, Governor, this is the most controversial thing I've ever seen in my district. It's gay marriage, abortion, and clear cutting all rolled into one.
Yeah.
So it was very controversial, but it's here. It's still going. 12, 15 years later, I meet kids all the time who say, you changed my life back there in the 7th and 8th grade.
Sure.
I meet parents. My son is now a computer science major. It all started there. So yeah, it feels pretty good to see something that actually made some change.
Now, little birdie told me that you run your own Instagram account.
I do. It took me
that
about
is awesome.
Well, it took me about 6 months to persuade my office that I'm serious that they could trust me. I post about every other day. Angus King, Maine. Angus
King, Maine on Instagram. I love some of the stuff that you throw up there. I hope that we can take a picture before you get out of here today. But you're not as crazy as Chuck Grassley on Twitter. That's a whole nother level of craziness.
That's a different level.
You've seen Chuck on Twitter.
Yeah, right? Twitter. Twitter, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble fast.
Yes.
But Instagram, I really enjoy because I like taking pictures, and I like taking pictures in Washington of sort of unusual views of the Capitol or of the Lincoln Memorial or the Supreme Court, and just give people. I also like to give people a little insight into what it is I'm doing.
Absolutely. So when you come home from D.C., what do you do when you get home to relax for fun? When you're not working, when you're not doing stuff like this?
I really like high school sports.
Yeah.
My son is a coach at Brunswick High. I like going to lacrosse in the spring. My idea of a really great date is a Friday night football game in Maine under the lights.
That is so Maine.
That's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about next year.
Absolutely.
Next fall. And, Mary and I sneak out and have a date every now and then. We had dinner the last week. It's the same as everybody else.
Growing up in Biddeford, Tiger football was like the biggest.
I've been to quite a few Biddeford Thornton games.
Yeah, I mean that's as big as it gets. Music on your iPod. What do you listen to?
Number one is Van Morrison. I've got a whole Van Morrison, Pandora. Wherever it goes. I've got. I'll tell you what I'm listening to now a lot, and I listened to it last night on the plane coming home. Is the soundtrack from Hamilton. It is unbelievable. It's absolute genius. The music, the words. It's the story of Alexander Hamilton in rap and hip hop, if you can believe it. It's the hit.
That's awesome.
It's a hit play on Broadway, and I was listening to the soundtrack. It's just fantastic. Also, I like Mark Knopfler. Then I've got a Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons that goes off into 60s rock and roll. A little bit of Norah Jones when I'm trying to fall asleep.
Love Norah. Speaking of Alexander Hamilton, are you happy that they're going to keep him on the 10 in some capacity?
Absolutely. He's one of the greatest founding fathers. He really founded our whole financial system, and he was never elected president, of course, because he got killed in a duel with Aaron Burr. But he was an amazing guy. He was an immigrant. He was born in the Caribbean and got up here at the age of 18 or 19, ended up becoming George Washington's right-hand man. Which is a great story in itself.
Switching gears just a little bit, what's the worst part of being in the Senate? I bet a lot of people ask you what the best part is. What's the worst part? What's something that you just really don't like about being in the Senate?
Being away from Maine.
Yeah. That's an easy one.
The worst part, I mean, it's frustrating, and it's particularly when you have to work really hard to get something done that seems obvious.
Sure.
It can be very frustrating. On the other hand, it's also exhilarating. I mean, you're dealing with issues at the highest level. I've met some some absolutely tremendous people who I really admire and like working with. And, it has its fun moments. Here's a great story. I was in a meeting in the Capitol. My phone rings, and it says pest control. And it was the people that were going to do some spraying for us at our house, for mosquitoes and ticks.
Yeah.
And I stepped out of the meeting and I took the call, and the guy said, well, we're going to be up there on Tuesday, and you better, to keep the windows closed and all that kind of stuff. And then the phone rang again. You know how you get a second call?
Sure.
And it said,
oh, hold on.
It said unknown.
Yeah.
And I said to the guy, I don't know who this is, but I better take it and I'll get back to you. And so I pushed the button, and it was the President of the United States.
Yep.
Don't you love the picture of a guy talking about getting his mosquitoes dealt with, and then he gets a call from the President?
That's America right there.
It really is.
A day in the life of a U.S. Senator. That's awesome. What would you say to somebody like me, somebody in their 20s or early 30s, who just looks at the whole process and they're just, totally disgusted by the gridlock and the inaction? And what would you say to people like me that just don't really want anything to do with it anymore?
Well, I think the first answer is if you disengage, then it'll only get worse. Politicians respond to people who vote.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way, but, that's just the fact. And so people need to be engaged. And, Maine is a place where it's sort of ridiculously accessible. I mean, I'm out all the time. I'm at the grocery store,
Sure.
at football games or whatever, and people can talk. And I think people up in Maine ought to have a feeling that they have a close connection with the people that are making these kinds of decisions. So I think my answer would be the only way it could get worse is if you drop out.
Yeah. When you're in D.C., when you tell people you're from Maine, or when people, recognize that you're from Maine, what are some of the funniest Maine stereotypes that people will associate with Mainers? People that may have never been here before, people that may have, been a tourist on a vacation one time. What's some of the funniest things that somebody has
Well, of
said
course,
to you?
they always start with lobsters.
Sure.
I mean, everybody's got a Maine lobster story, and they want to know if I have any with me. And, like I carry them around in my pocket.
Right.
Have you got a lobster on you, Senator? Well, not right now. So they always start with that. I'll tell you what's really amazing is the number of people that have some connection with Maine, and their eyes get sort of misty. They have a very positive association with Maine. They came to summer camp here. They went on their honeymoon to Bar Harbor or whatever. They have a very positive, but they don't think of us as a place where we have businesses and jobs and a very active economy. To a lot of people, they think, it's all schooners and lobsters. Here's a funny story. I was up the coast once with Mary at an event, and we were following and I had been, this is when I was governor, I'd been invited to speak, welcome to Maine, have a great time. And after we were walking out, there were these two elderly ladies who were, from Philadelphia or New York or someplace, and one of them turned to the other and said, "Isn't that quaint? I never knew Maine had a governor before."
You're kidding.
So for them, Maine was a mile thick along the coast, and
Sure.
they'd been coming here all their lives, but they didn't know, anything about the life of the state.
Right.
But I'll tell you, it's really nice to be from a state that does have positive associations. People respect us, and also being a senator from Maine is sort of daunting because we've had such really outrageously great senators
Huge.
for 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I have Edmund Muskie's desk in Washington. Mitchell came before me, Olympia Snow, Susan Collins followed Bill Cohen, who followed Bill Hathaway, who followed Margaret Chase Smith.
Senator Smith, yeah.
Really, and it's, I will tell you one other story. This is an absolutely true story. I was in a committee meeting, and on the same committee that Susan Collins and I happened to be on this one committee. We're on different ones, but on this one we were together, and she was saying something. She was arguing in favor of an amendment. The guy sitting next to me, a senator from New Mexico, leaned over in the middle while she was talking and said, "Is there something in the water in Maine that gives people common sense?" And I thought, man, that's great. That it was a compliment to Susan and to me and to Maine.
Senator Justin Bieber, yes or no? Oh, come on. There's only one answer to this. You're going to alienate half the population either way.
Not enough information to answer. How's that? I do trivia with Mary and the kids on Tuesday nights, and I leave popular culture, if the kids have to do Eddie music after about 2005.
Senator Angus King is the junior United States Senator from Maine. Senator, thank you so much. The whole conversation's up at WJBQ.com. Really appreciate it.
Anytime.